crowd is going wild. A brand new season, that championship style. Big plays are coming, the rivalry's real. Get ready for that Pigskin Frenzy feel. It's college football, yeah, you know the deal. This is Pigskin Frenzy. Pigskin Frenzy.
We are ready to kick off our second phase of spring football coverage here at Pigskin Frenzy. 2026 spring outlooks in the rearview mirror. Now we are doing things with our spring results. Our spring results are finally upon us. And if you have watched previous Pigskin Frenzy's episodes, and if you have been, keeping up with us here on Pigskin Frenzy over the past few years and ever since the beginning, guys, first off, thank you for that. But not only that, you know how we do our spring football episodes. We do spring outlooks, and then we go with spring results. But with our spring results, we go right back to who we did first with our spring outlooks, and we go in that order. Spring results today: Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and Florida State. 2 teams from the SEC, 2 teams from the ACC. We're ready to rock and roll. We're fired up. Here we go. Spring results. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Pigskin Frenzy on this beautiful Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Joel Norris, and whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, Podbean, or Apple, or catching us on True Voice Digital, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage presented by us. For watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, just share around with others and follow on there as well. True Voice Digital, catch us on there as well. Inspired, faith-based content, as well as unfiltered analysis from me, the prodigy of college football. Not only that, X and Instagram and TikTok is at Pigskin_Frenzy. You're going to get wild takes from the prodigy of college football himself. And not only that, you're going to get our website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, we're at 99,000 channel views, 99,000 views on YouTube. Huge thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. Audio-wise, we're about to be at 7,100 listeners all time, and we're so thankful for you guys tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday, because this is a we show. We listen to you guys, and you guys asked for these teams during our spring football coverage, and we're giving it to you guys, the best content that we can. So huge shout out to you guys for tuning in each and every week. Thank you guys for listening to Pigskin Frenzy, because without you, it's a we show. We would not be here because of you guys. And not only that, we give all of our praise to the Lord, our Lord and Savior Jesus, because without him, we would not be in college football media and fulfilling our dream in college football media and chasing our goals. And not only that, decrease our name and increase his. So guys, if you want to come to know Jesus, it's the best decision you can ever make in your life. Contact me. X, Instagram, and TikTok is at Pigskin_Frenzy, as well as our website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Home and About Me page. Learn. You can just go down to the bottom, and there's a contact info down below, and you can type in your name and email and talk about coming to know Jesus. It's the best decision you can ever make in your life. He is Lord of Lords, and he is our one and only King, and we're so thankful for him, and we glorify him and praise him because of what he does for us. We're so thankful for him, and we give him all the glory and all the praise. Man, college football, we're fired up. We're had a great Easter. Guys, like I said, remember the reason of the season of Easter? It is because of our Lord and Savior Jesus. He died on the cross and rose again 3 days later on Easter Sunday so that we can spend eternity in heaven with him. We're so thankful for him, and we glorify him as well. I hope everyone had a great Easter, had fun, spent time with our families. I sure did. We're ready to rock and roll some college football. Spring results. And it's fitting that we have our Easter break, and then we have our spring results kicking off now. So we're kicking it off, man. We're starting it up, and we're ready to rock and roll. Our 2026 spring results. I'm getting so excited. I'm starting to stutter a little bit. Here we go. Let's rock and roll. Kicking things off down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Now, in Alabama, on the spring outlooks that we talked about for what we wanted to see out of their springs, their A-Day, even though these games, there's some of the team spring games that I've done that we're talking about and giving our spring results on, their spring game has not technically happened yet, but we've seen enough of their practice to where we can give sort of their results and give our grades on them throughout their spring so far. So, Alabama, what we wanted to see out of them and some of the things that we talked about was, one, offensive line play, running backs, and really toughness. And also the quarterbacks, right? So also the quarterbacks and who's going to take that leap in that quarterback competition. So those are some of the things that we wanted to see from them in the spring heading into the fall. So what we have with Alabama, number one thing that we really wanted to see was toughness. And by the way, shout out to Trent Ritchie, who not on the show today and not on the show right now, but shout out to him. He did great with our spring outlook. So shout out to him as well. And he was great on our show as well. So we were talking about the toughness and how the toughness needs to be brought back at Alabama. And what we want to see consistently really is it starts in the trenches, honestly, with offensive line. Offensive line was one of the most hyped groups that I hyped up, in 2025, going into 2025, was Alabama's offensive line. I said that this group was probably one of the best in the country. It turned out to be kind of underwhelming. And what I mean underwhelming is really couldn't run the ball a whole lot. You can run the ball, but not well. Pass blocking was kind of iffy as well. Blocking in general was just kind of iffy. And they didn't have that same toughness, right? And that's what we wanted to see. Can they get a little bit more tough, right? And get a little bit better toughness-wise and more physical heading in during the spring, heading into the fall. So the one thing that sticks out to me out of their practices was, yes, the offensive line still needs work. Of course. I mean, there's been only a few practices, sure. But what we've seen so far is that there is room to improve. However, I believe that it can improve. And it probably sounds like I'm saying that, okay, dude, you're just biased on Alabama. I'm not. I'm being completely honest. I think they have a talented group of guys on the offensive line. They have a talented group, offensive line-wise, coming in, hiring a new offensive line coach, just bringing a lot of, talent in, like, Javen James, Ethan Fields, Michael Carroll, just coming in and bringing those guys in and having those guys a part of the offensive line. It can help, them gel and get a little bit more reps in as well. I think for Bama's offensive line, they just got to have more practices and gel better. It needs work still. They're having a little bit of trouble blocking still. But, and I say this with all honesty, but it should be okay. It should be okay. More reps, more practice should happen, and everything should be good, right? So, offensive line just needs more work. However, with more practice, more reps, they could probably build into a very underrated offensive line group heading in to the 2026 season. So that's one there, too. The running backs, another thing that we wanted to see from them as well. Kevin Riley's explosiveness. Daniel Hill looked good as well. And Daniel Hill looked quicker. So when you look at Kevin Riley and Daniel Hill, obviously, they were behind Jam Miller and they played and rotated in and out behind Jam Miller. Those probably guys are the clear-cut favorites to get the rotation, right? E.J. Crowell is probably going to be, maybe a future in the rotation, maybe a future. We'll see. We didn't really see him much as well because of his injury, but at the same time, we'll get to see him more as we continue to evaluate Alabama more. But when you look at the running backs look nice as well. If you looked at Daniel Hill, he looked a little bit quicker, and I like seeing that as well. Kevin Riley looked quicker as well. He looked like more of the exploding type running back between Hill and Riley. So I really like that as well. Trayshawn Brown, who was also a freshman running back coming in, he's having a good spring as well, especially physically in the weight room. He's looking like he's being extra prepared and coming in mentally ready to rock and roll. So awesome, right, for the running backs for Alabama. So you got that for the Alabama or the running backs. So the running backs really having kind of my favorite part. I mean, the offensive line still needs work. The running backs are kind of taking a life of its own. They really need to expand in the running game if you're Alabama, so that's good for them. And then they were just playing with explosiveness and playing with fast, quick ability. So good for Alabama's running backs and good for their running back room, because they got some talented running backs down in Tuscaloosa in that running back room. So good for them having a good spring as well. DeBoer is praising them a lot in these scrimmages. So good for them as well. So you got that going. Transfers that are standing out, really, Devon Tompkins as well from Southern for USC. He's standing out, and you got a lot of guys in the transfer portal standing out as well. Noah Rogers, transfer receivers, been having a good day as well. The receivers, are starting to kind of gel together. I kind of want to see what's going to happen with the receivers as well, especially Ryan Coleman Williams. He changed his name as well. I think he probably needs to step up a little bit more, have a better spring, and not only that, try to get some momentum going, right? Some momentum going heading into the fall, because last year he didn't really have that good of a sophomore year. He really needs this year to kind of get back into the limelight and be a solid receiver for this Alabama offense and Ryan Grubb's offense. So the last thing I can tell you about Alabama, and we can do our grades and then move on to the other three teams, really, is the quarterback play. And that's what I really wanted to see as well, is the quarterback play, the quarterback competition, and who's going to step up between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. I said during our Spring Outlook episode with all these teams for Alabama is I want to see what's going to happen there, but I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Mack got the job. It wouldn't shock me if Austin Mack would have that lay up, so to speak. Well, if you want to talk about it, guys, it's looking like, to me, from what I've seen, it also wouldn't shock me that Austin Mack could probably be QB2 behind Keelan Russell. And you're thinking, really? And yeah, I will say for sure that, to me, the Austin Mack did go first in the offense, and he looked good. I'm not saying he didn't look bad. He looked good. But there's something about Keelan Russell, man, and that screams and just says to you, superstar quarterback, right? There's something about Keelan Russell that screams, this guy's it, and he's got it. And I think the mobility is good. He's got a cannon for an arm. His decision-making can get a little bit better, yeah, sure, but he's also not really played, obviously, right? So, he's a redshirt freshman, right? So Keelan Russell coming in, I think that he can be a solid quarterback for this team. It would not shock me if Keelan Russell won the job. Let me put it that way. My tune has kind of changed on that. A lot of people said that, at first I said it was probably going to be Austin Mack's job to lose, and it still could be. Austin Mack's not playing bad in the battle. I don't think really anybody is kind of leaped over one or the other. But it also, from what I'm seeing from Keelan Russell, it wouldn't shock me if he stood out and took that edge eventually, just from his mobility and just from his athletic ability of how well he can be a quarterback for this team in this system. It wouldn't shock me if Keelan Russell won the starting job. I wouldn't be surprised if he won this job. A lot of people may think differently of that. I don't. I think Keelan Russell, and he is the future, don't get me wrong, but Keelan Russell might be the now for Alabama football. So that's really what I saw from Alabama this spring so far during the offense. Defensively, they looked okay as well. I think defensively they could get better in some areas, like the linebacker spot, maybe. But other than that, I think their defense is okay. I'm not too. Look, I said on the previous episode I'm more worried about Alabama's defense and LSU's defense, but this spring Alabama's defense has come prepared. And they have been really coached well during this spring. So defensively, they also look really good as well. Special teams, they're kind of getting the hang of things as well also. So for Alabama overall, my grade really, if you want to put a grade on it, my spring result grade for me so far for Alabama would probably be, I would think, just a B. Not an A, not a B minus, B plus, all that. Just a straight B, a solid B. I think that there is room to improve in a lot of areas, obviously, because the practices have kind of just now taken effect, because next week is their spring game. Right now, I will say my grade for them, their spring, is a B, only because there are certain things that they need to work on, especially the offensive line. I think conditioning and getting healthy is better, as what needs to take a step forward as well. Special teams as well, but I think defense can be very underrated this year. I think the quarterback competition, a lot of people are worried. If you're a Bama fan, if you're worried about these two quarterbacks, I wouldn't be worried about these two quarterbacks. I think Austin Mack and Keelan Russell could probably start and run the system very well. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're Alabama, honestly, or I wouldn't be worried about the quarterback battle just as of yet. I know a lot of people are going to say, look how we play in an actual game instead of like a spring. But we'll get there when we get there. But right now, talent-wise, those two quarterbacks are pretty – I think they're pretty well enough to try to help this offense run through the gauntlet, right, of the SEC. So I'll say B for Alabama, honestly, during the spring. So really, that's my grade for Alabama. Could they be better? Yeah. Could they be a lot worse? I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're all that bad. I don't think they're phenomenal. Do I think they're a top 5 team? Probably not yet. No. But I do think that they are a top 25 type team. So let me just put it that way. Alabama is a B going into the fall in my estimate. Next up is LSU. LSU, man. And the thing is, for LSU, they're not having a spring game. Obviously, they're not having a traditional spring game. Their practice ends in a couple of weeks, and their scrimmages end in a couple of weeks. But they've already started their spring practices, and they've had enough spring practices to, like I said, where I can grade and give my estimate on these teams. I will say for LSU, talent-wise, they have it. And when I mean they have it, they have it. The best transfer portal class going into 2026. Lane Kiffin brought the bag in, and he knew what he was doing recruiting down in Baton Rouge. So a lot of what I wanted to see was the running game. How was that going to take effect? Because the running game, a lot of people were saying, okay, Bama's running game was kind of due to the offensive line. I think when the offensive line for LSU was blocking, the running game still couldn't get going, right? It's just the running game was not there. The running game was a lot worse for LSU last year than it was for like an Alabama, right? So for me, I wanted to see what the running game was going to do. I wanted to see what the offensive line. I also wanted to see about the receiving core. I wanted to see about defensively as well what was happening also. So big thing for LSU. They lose Guillory. They lose Guillory probably, I don't know, for the season or not, but he tore his ACL during spring. He's out for the remainder of spring, maybe for the year, who knows, but hopefully it's not. Well, thoughts and prayers are with him, and hopefully he's okay during that. So that's a huge loss for LSU's defensive line. But who can step up during that? You got Lamar Brown on the defensive line. He can step up. He's an athlete. With the number one player out of Louisiana coming in and remaining with the Tigers. They can step up and play for him and make sure he can be that big time playmaker for them on defensive line early on. So we'll see there. Defensive backs. I mean, you got Spears, even though Deshaun Spears comes in as a linebacker, he can also move into that defensive back role as well. Tamarcus Cooley still there. DJ Pickett most likely going to be the starter. Jackson and Woodland. Defensive back secondary, not really too worried about the defensive backs. I think they're honestly kind of deep in that area. In secondary, they're kind of deep. So defensively, I'm not too worried about LSU. I think they're deep at linebacker. I think defensive line can be a little bit more utilized, but I think defensive backs and linebackers, Blake Baker and this team know what they're doing, especially on defense. So defensively, I'm not too worried. I think their defense is going to be a lot more explosive this year than it was last year. The Bayou Bandits may come, so it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with their defense. I think they're all right on defense, though. If you want to look at some of the concerns for me for LSU is really offensive line. I know Braylon Moore and Jordan Seaton are practicing very well and running drills very well. I think you got Seaton, you got Moore, you got Davis, Ba, and Harper. I think that the offensive line as a cohesive unit is what I want to see more of. I think they're doing good right now. I think that they missed a couple, right? But everyone's going to miss a couple. It's not going to be, it's how it is in football. It's a competitive game, right? So if your offensive line, somebody's going to get sacked, right? But you just can't get sacked consistently, right? Someone's going to get sacked, though. It's just how it happens in a football game. So offensive line-wise, more as a cohesive unit, they're getting there. I still want to see more from their offensive line a lot. So that's just me. A little bit more from their O-line and just get better. Now, Lane Kiffin has also preached patience if you're an LSU fan. So be patient. And I kind of agree with him. Be patient. Because I think talent-wise, they're good. They just gotta be more of a cohesive unit. And I think that's a thing that I want to see out of LSU 100% is can they be more of a cohesive unit? So to me, that's number one thing that I want to see and I wish we could see more of. And then they can. They just got to have more practices and get better. So, got 2 weeks left. We'll see as they go into the fall. Just be more cohesive unit, especially on the offensive line. I mean, some of the guys that stand out, obviously, Levitt if you want to look at the quarterbacks, right? And I'll give a positive right here on the quarterbacks. Obviously, you would think Sam Levitt's going to get the starting quarterback spot. He's going to be the starter for the 2026 season. But I will tell you this, that quarterback room at LSU is pretty freaking good, okay? They are really good, right? That room is good because if Levitt doesn't play, if I'm an LSU fan, from what I'm seeing in practice, I would not be worried about Landon Clark or Hassan Longstreet starting. Landon Clark is running with the first team. For the past couple of practices, has been running first team drills as well and the hurry up drills. Landon Clark, his spirals have been really good. Right, his spirals have been really good. His throws have been really good. His decision making has been really good. He's a little bit mobile, kind of like Sam Levitt, so he can run a little bit. So Landon Clark has been not really bad. The Elon transfer has not been really bad for LSU in these spring practices. Hassan Longstreet making practices that are pretty cold-blooded, I would say, like a sidearm throw, right? A no-look pass, right? Hassan Longstreet making deep passes as well. These quarterbacks are a lot, decision-making wise, are a lot better than advertised. Let me just put it that way. For quarterbacks that, if you don't count Landon Clark, for like Hassan Longstreet, right, who haven't really played. Hassan Longstreet hadn't played. Elon transfer quarterback Landon Clark has played there. But their decision-making is pretty solid. Sam Levitt's most likely going to be the starter. But I'm going to tell you what, that room at LSU quarterback-wise is pretty solid. I'm not going to lie. I would be comfortable with Landon Clark or Hassan Longstreet if Sam Levitt somehow couldn't go against Clemson or whatever, but I would think he would go against Clemson. I'm just saying if somehow something went down during the season, I would be very comfortable with a Landon Clark or Hassan Longstreet if I'm LSU. That's just how I view it there. Positive is the quarterback room there. Running backs have been a surprise as well, and running backs, I want to see how they were going to gel running the ball wise. I think, Caden Durham took a lot of the first team reps as well. Caden Durham did, and he didn't play all that bad. He ran the ball a lot better. Harlan Berry ran the ball as well a little bit, and he looked good as well. So the running game is getting a little bit better, which is a good sign. It's positive because they need to run the ball a lot better this season, especially on offense as well. So good strides there also. Trey'Dez Green, a monster, obviously. There's nothing to really need to say about Trey'Dez Green at the tight end spot for LSU. So, obviously, offensively, they look good in certain areas. I think cohesiveness, team chemistry needs to get evolved a little bit better. Offensive line-wise, they need to get evolved a little bit more. Defensively and special teams, they look good and they look better. I think defensively they're going to be at the same pace as last year, if not could be better than they were last year. So we'll see there. But honestly, my overall grade for LSU is probably a B+. And a lot of people are going to say, so you're just going to praise them and then just hit them with that one, right? I think to me, because football to me if you're physically athletic and you're athletic enough to play in these certain position groups, yes, sure. Team wise, playmaker wise, you got some playmakers, you got some studs. LSU does. LSU's probably going to be one of the top teams in the SEC this year, most likely. But I will say this, you also got to have that team chemistry, and you got to have that mental preparation as a team and band of brothers mentality, right? As a team. Are we really seeing that from LSU yet? We don't know. The practices have started a few weeks back, so we're just now starting to get into that gel, right, of trying to form that chemistry. But they have to find that chemistry. They got to find that balance team-wise and team chemistry-wise. That's why I put them at a B+. B+ is not a bad grade. I think it's a really good grade. How I evaluated it is, I think team chemistry needs to improve. Other than that, if it improves and gets there, they can shoot up to an A- or an A because they're a solid football team. On paper, they look like they have it, right? So I keep saying that word, that it factor, right? That it. They have it. Just got to get that team chemistry up a little bit. So that's LSU's spring results, and that was Alabama's spring results as well. Let's move on to the ACC. Two more teams, and then we're going to wrap up Pigskin Frenzy. Let's go down to Clemson. Clemson's spring's already over. They started theirs back in February. They ended their spring game in late March, about like last week. They had their spring game. So Clemson's spring's already over. Let's highlight their springs and what we want to see and what we wanted to see from them. Well, who's going to take that leap at the quarterback battle, right? If you look at Clemson in their quarterbacks, right? You wanted to see, excuse me as I pull up my notes, from Clemson, what you wanted to see, obviously, is Christopher Vizina, Chris Denson, and you also wanted to see Trent Pearman and Tate Reynolds. All those guys are playing, and you wanted to see, okay, who's going to take that leap, right? To me, you would think, okay, Christopher Vizina would probably be that guy because he's waited in the wings behind Cade Klubnik. You'd probably think he's going to be the guy waiting in the wings, right, to take that starting job. I think from what we saw during the spring game, you wanted to see how it was going to be under Chad Morris. Obviously, that's another. So those are two things there for Clemson that I wanted to see. And obviously, you wanted to see running game. How was that going to take effect as well? A lot of offense in this, this spring results, right? So number one, from what I've seen from Clemson, and this is how I grade them. Obviously, I think for Clemson, obviously, some of the positives. I think Christopher Vizina is a lot more comfortable. So from what I've seen during their spring games, during their spring game, during their spring practices, if you're talking about just straight quarterback, I think to me, Christopher Vizina is the dude. I think he should start. I think he's the more comfortable out of all of them. I think he's waited his turn. He's been patient. I think his decision-making's improved a ton. I think his arm is improved a ton. He's played in a lot of games and has a little bit more experience than these other guys. And that's not a knock at the other guys. I'm just being honest. Resume kind of matters in this situation to me. I think Christopher Vizina right now has the better resume to be QB1 for the 2026 season. That's just me. I think Christopher Vizina, this is his job to lose. That's just to me. I think he's picking up quite well on Chad Morris's offense, and this is a good segue to talk about Chad Morris's offense because he's back. He's back. He coached DeAndre Hopkins and Taj Boyd and all those guys 2011 to 2014 as well for Clemson. So I think Bryant Wesco, TJ Moore, the two veteran receivers are back for them. They're kind of picking up the system well. Chad Morris is getting his system in early, and it's looking actually pretty not bad. It's honestly, because in 2011 and 2014, when Chad Morris was the OC there, Clemson's offense was just on fire. They were going, and they were clicking. I think that Chad Morris' system this go-round could probably do the same and click a little bit. They looked a little bit more comfortable this spring than they did last spring. And not only that, later in the season, Clemson didn't look comfortable on offense. They looked like an entirely different vibe offensively for Clemson in this spring game and in these spring practices. So Chad Morris' system is being implemented, and it's being implemented very well. The only struggle that you see is some of the receivers kind of not stepping up behind Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore. I think some of the younger receivers, this is probably their time to shine. Kind of was a little bit, if you had to say. And I think Dabo Sweeney would agree on that. But I think the receiving core needs to get a little bit more better. Besides just Wesco and Moore, who's going to step up behind those guys? I don't know. I think the receiving core needs to get a little bit better. So I think that's really one of the only, if you want to talk about negatives of the offense, probably that would be just the younger receivers. I think that the offensive line kind of got beat in some matchups as well. I think that this was going to happen because when you had probably one of the most returning productions going into last year, it's going to be a little bit different because a lot of these guys are younger going into this season. They lost a lot of players, Clemson did. So if you look at it and you're thinking, okay, these guys they're freshmen, young players. They're not, what are they doing? They're not playing as well. It's not they're not playing as well. They're trying to get their reps in and trying to get their experience in. So let's just give it time, right? Let's give it time on these certain situations. So, I mean, if you want to talk about concerns, maybe the younger receiver group, maybe some of the O line getting beat in a little in some of these defensive battle matchups, right in the trenches. Okay, yeah, but still give it a little bit of grace as well because they are younger players. So, if you want to talk about those are some of the concerns, yeah, but still give it a little bit of grace. I think defensively, to me, I think if you look, if you look at the linebackers, they look good as well. I think the linebackers were pretty solid, good replacements for the guys like T.J. Parker coming in, going to the draft. Parker's going to the draft. Who's going to replace him? You got a lot of guys. You got a lot of guys with the safeties. Barnes and Jones were great last year. Myrick Carter and Anderson, they look good on the secondary spot. Linebackers look solid. Defensive line could probably be bolstered a little bit more, I would think. I think that's a concern a little bit is the D line, but other than that, the safeties and the linebackers look good under Tom Allen's group. So honestly, overall, Clemson looks like a good team if you want to look at it right now from their spring and base how I saw in their spring game. Their spring game to me was okay. Was it enough to compete against the Miami right now? Because I'm evaluating Miami right now as well, and Miami looks really good. So, to me, if you want to talk about overall grade for Clemson, to me, I would probably say maybe a B minus, maybe. I would say B minus only because of some of the concerns of depth, younger talent coming in and playing and trying to get those reps, trying to get that experience in. I think the B minus is good enough. I think they're okay enough. I think Christopher Vizina is definitely the guy for Clemson overall. If you look at, if you look at some of the defensive stuff, like their linebackers and safeties are good. The defensive line needs a little bit of bolstering up. Other than that, I think they look good they look okay on paper, but are they good enough to win 10 games this year, maybe 10 to 11 games? I don't know if I can say that yet. So right now, probably a B minus right now. Clemson is going to be a good team. I do not know if they are going to be a phenomenal playoff type team yet, but right now they are a good enough team for that B minus spot in the spring results. So that's really my spring results on Clemson. Cannot wait to see them heading into the spring. We're going to have heading into the fall rather, but we're going to have our conference standing projections on the ACC coming up in June. So excited to talk more about them as well. Last but not least is Florida State, and Florida State is kind of an unknown a little bit. I mean, you do lose a lot of guys. You lose Gus Malzahn to retirement. Mike Norvell is back as head coach for Florida State as well. So we're curious to see what's going to happen there for Florida State. Like I said, no more Gus Malzahn, right? And we said it in the spring outlooks. He retired. No more Gus Malzahn. Enter Tim Harris Jr. as the offensive coordinator. He will be on staff there, but he will be the kind of the secondary option at play calling because Mike Norvell will take over play calling as head coach for them. But Tim Harris Jr. will be the offensive coordinator on staff there. So Mike Norvell will be the primary play caller for this season. Now, excitement levels, I don't know. I don't know how I can view that just yet for them. I just got to wait and see when these games happen and come up. Their schedule's pretty tough. I'm not going to lie. Their schedule is pretty tough. But we're just going to have to see what happens, in terms of the offense. Defensively, we have Tony White coming back. Tony White on defense back. Defense was a little bit of a struggle late last year, but now they're coming back a little bit more tough. I think defensively, a positive you can say is that Tony White is getting really active in the spring practices as well and the spring. So there's no spring game, but some of these spring practices, he's been getting very active, especially with the defense. So let's dive into their spring results and dive into their spring practices overall down in Tallahassee. So obviously, let's start with the positives. We'll go with the negatives, but we'll go with our positives. The positives are this. Defensively, I think the depth on defense is pretty good, especially on the defensive line. I think they have some strong defensive line depth. And at defensive tackle, very strong defensive line depth, which is really good for Florida State. They need that. They need big guys that they can rotate in and out and who can still have some of that experience in them and can still, all right, next man up kind of mentality on the defensive line. And you can win in the battle of the trenches on the line of scrimmage. So very good for the Seminoles in that regard. Tony White's defense is taking shape. I think that their defense is kind of outdoing their expectations a little bit. I think they're overachieving a little bit, which is a positive sign if you're a Seminoles fan going in to 2026. So defensively, I think they have a shot at being a really good team. I'm not really concerned too much about Tony White in the defense, depth-wise. I think linebacker could be bolstered up a little bit. Other than that, I think that is a minor fix. I think their defense is going to be underrated. Offensively, who's going to take that leap at quarterback? Right now, Ashton Daniels has the edge. If you want to look at that as well, they for Florida State, Ashton Daniels has the edge. Now the battle's still going to go on. Kevin Sperry still still in the hunt in that battle. So it's Kevin Sperry and Ashton Daniels right now. Daniels has the edge, but the job, the job has not been announced to anyone yet. Right now, Daniels has the edge due to experience. Sperry has been making some nice strides and improvements in this, in the battle, though. So offensively, they're still kind of coming into their own. Right now, Daniels has the edge. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens overall. I think offensive line needs to improve a little bit more. I think that could be a negative there. So some of the positives were quarterback strides with Kevin Sperry. Defensively, their defense looks pretty solid, especially depth-wise. I think those are some of the positives. You want to go with some of the negatives. Offensive line needs to improve a lot more. Receivers a little bit are doing okay, right? I wouldn't say they are phenomenal. I think that the offense will look a lot similar to last year's with Gus Malzahn. We will see what happens, though. Overall, I think offensive line is the big concern. I think young receivers are a concern a little bit too. They do have some guys coming in at receiver, but overall the offensive line is the biggest negative for this team. I think they need to get better on the O-line. Other than that, I think that Florida State, rep-wise, is doing okay. Now, do I think that Florida State, to me, overall, is a team that you can look at and say, they're going to the ACC championship, they're going to win the whole conference? I don't know. I don't know. Because offensively, early on in September, they were a team that wasn't going to be stopped. And then they got stopped by Virginia. Then they got beat by Miami. Then they started losing to Stanford in more games. And then you're thinking, what's going to happen, right? It's been a disaster. Crash and burn ever since Virginia. That was their crash and burn game. I think mentally, are they going to be a team where you look at them mentally and think, okay, off to the races, are we going to crash and burn? Or are we going to have a strong head on our shoulders? I think mentally, and I think I wish I would have added this to the spring outlook. I think mentality is a big thing at Florida State too. How motivated are they going to be heading into the fall? I think we're seeing some of it, but not quite enough of it yet. So right now, I would say probably a C+, maybe teetering towards a B- for Florida State right now. Only because I think the offensive line is a huge issue right now. I think the offensive line needs to get a little bit better. Quarterback-wise, Ashton Daniels or Kevin Sperry, no clear edge yet, but Daniels has a slighter edge maybe, but no clear-cut favorite yet. Don't know what's going to happen there. Overall, team-wise, the schedule's really tough, so I don't know what's going to happen yet. It's kind of an unknown for me at Florida State right now. So right now, probably C+ going into teetering towards a B- for Florida State for me. So that's really overall my spring results for them. That's my spring results on Alabama, LSU, Clemson, and Florida State. Ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time. So, guys, a big thank you for taking some time out of your Tuesday to just sit back, watch, and listen to some college football coverage and some spring results coverage presented by me. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like each episode, leave comments down below. Spotify, Podbean, and Apple, all you got to do is just share around with others and follow on there as well. Catch us on True Voice Digital. Unfiltered analysis, faith-based content, and inspired faith-based content on True Voice Digital. Follow us on there as well. We're fired up to be on there as well. X, Instagram, and TikTok is at Pigskin_Frenzy. Follow for more wild takes for the prodigy of college football. There is also the website, www.pigskinfrenzy.weebly.com. Guys, super thank you and huge thank you for tuning in each and every Tuesday and Thursday. Without you guys, we could not do this. And without our Lord and Savior, we give him all the praise. We would not be doing this as well. Coming up on Thursday, going to be very interesting on Thursday. More spring results, and we're doing it in all Big Ten with obviously Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and USC. We're going to do our spring results on Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, and USC. That is on Thursday. Cannot wait for that. So ready to rock and roll for Thursday's episode for the All Big Ten there. So until Thursday's spring result episode, guys, I am Joel Norris. We're signing off. Praying for you all. We love you all. As always, stay the course.